What frustrates me the most about universities is how they assure their applicants that it's easy, simple, and like the University of Georgia, maybe even fun to apply. But their encouragements suggest to me just how out of touch admissions counselors and university bureaucrats are from the needs of everyday families. Many students and families navigate the admissions process without stressing too much. But for tens of thousands of others, this process is rife with anxiety, stress, and worry. I'm continually reminding students with my consulting services, but especially their parents, that everything is probably going to be okay. There are many common sources of worry, like whether you'll get into your dream school or if your SAT is good enough. But let's set aside the typical sources of stress around course scheduling, preparing for standardized exams, applying for summer programs, and building the resume prior to your applications. Let's instead consider a few non-obvious but common examples of anxiety after finishing your essay drafts and applications that I confront each week, and I see how stress manifests itself into counterproductive behaviors. First, let's consider essay over-editing. Sometimes students break already polished essays by trying to make it better, something that doesn't need changing. Their essays become a convenient punching bag to project their uneasiness. If they can just find that perfect semicolon placement, their emotional brain reasons, then it will finally be complete. However, no college essay or any piece of writing will ever be perfect. Perfectionist writing tendencies are an extension of a fear of not meeting society's impossibly high expectations. Second, students often continue reinserting unrealistic colleges onto their list last minute, a practice that I call application creep. They succumb to their parents' pressures, whose family friends post online and gossip about their child applying. And in his landmark book, The Paradox of Choice, Barry Schwartz argues that having as many as 4,000 colleges and university options produces the counterintuitive effect of making us more miserable. Access to so many choices produces anxiety and suffering because applicants want to find the perfect fit, and they fear missing out if they choose incorrectly. Because students are unable to limit their search to 4 or 5 schools, some of them have an application creep where they apply to 20 or 30 different universities under the mistaken assumption that more options will make them happier. But most of the time it doesn't. Thirdly, another common phenomenon is what I call constant refresh syndrome. After students submit their applications, they stress even more because the decisions are now entirely outside of their control. There is no action that they can take to improve their chances. And some may be inclined to email their admissions counselors obsessively. Students constantly refresh their emails and application portals. They reread and scrutinize already submitted essays, and they sift through hundreds of daily posts of other stressed out college students in online communities such as Reddit's Applying to College or College Confidential, which I discussed in a previous video. Next, students also worry even when they get their way. I saw a thread recently on Applying to College that said, "I stressed about not receiving an interview from Yale. Now I'm even more stressed that they've offered me one." 2 other A2C posts that I plugged at random today capture the irrationalities of worries translating into time management inefficiencies. One of them said, "When you check A2C and realize you've seen all of the hot posts already, so you just sort of scroll through everything from today mindlessly." And another said, "Applying to college Redditors be like, I'm so stressed and I have no time to write these essays, but then they spend 30 minutes a day checking what's up on Applying to College." Fifth, the problem with college admissions is that the worries stay the same even after you enroll. The only difference is the anxieties find different targets. Check the front page of Applying to College on any given day of the year, and you'll see dozens of the same kinds of worried posts, albeit with different targets. Social media more generally amplifies the stress and accelerates limitless desires to consume information. However, more distractions also means less time to get actual work done. And you might think that April and May, once all decisions are released, would provide some reprieve to the anxiety. But no. This brings me to my sixth point, about worrying about offers being rescinded. Anxious students worry that a C in AP Calculus AB will result in a university taking back their admissions offer. One student emailed me after already gaining admission to their first choice major 3 months prior. They stressed whether the program would revoke their offer due to a typo on their resume's work section. Purgatories like waitlists, deferrals, appeals, and letters of continuing interest drag out the process that exclusively serves universities' needs, which is something I discussed in another video. Sixth, college admissions is a misinformation factory. It produces confusion and suffering, a predictably repeating cycle that not even a global pandemic can slow. It's an insidious system perfectly tailored to expose flaws and open wounds, especially those who are perfectionists, risk-averse life planners, and micromanagers who are terrified of uncertainty. The issues that affluent families confront seems less about college literacy and cultivating a college-going atmosphere at their schools. And these things are absent in many of the low-income and rural high schools that I used to visit regularly as an admissions counselor for UT Austin. So that means that for wealthy students, their issues are almost entirely psychological, with only a secondary concern about their child composing the highest stakes essays that they may ever write. Next, student anxiety makes the process way harder than it needs to be. When I share reasonable advice, worried students often promptly ignore it. They ask me and wonder, do I have enough volunteering hours? Am I applying to the right major? What happens if every university rejects me? Will my essays ever be good enough? And what can I do to add to my resume? What students believe will alleviate their suffering, like receiving an interview or even gaining admission into their dream school, produces another round of worry about something in the future. One of my most well-adjusted clients, one who does see through the admissions madness and has a genuine thirst for learning, wrote to me, quote, "With the interview coming soon and Yale's decisions coming back December 15th, my anxiety is increased. I'm prepared for the absolutely probable denial of admission, but I'm nonetheless hopeful and pray at least twice a day that I get in." And even after gaining admission, admitted students second guess whether they should have applied to higher tier schools that their classmates are now bragging about on social media. This leads me to my ninth source of less common anxiety, which is that students have a fear of missing out for enrolling at one university rather than another. And this worry is compounded if they opt for community college, while all of their friends are going to four-year universities. YouTube admissions decision reaction videos intensify envy from students who didn't gain admission. And next, the anxiety cycle continues after college enrollment. After enrolling, students' worries shift to making A's, changing their major or even their university, getting their preferred classes, gaining leadership positions in student organizations, securing internships, and also having graduate school interview applications for fellowships or job interviews. Harvard's most selective student organizations, such as the Harvard Consulting Group or the Crimson Key Society, admit fewer than 1 in 8 of their applicants. The metrics and targets change after high school in part because the questions asked by your teachers, parents, and friends also change. What's your top school? Turns into, where are you applying to intern? And before you finished your internship, an academic advisor asks about your graduate school or fellowship plans following graduation. Our society always asks, what's next, rather than what's right now. Alan Watts writes in his 1951 book, The Wisdom of Insecurity, a message for an age of anxiety, that If happiness always depends on something expected in the future, we are chasing a will-o'-the-wisp that ever eludes our grasp. 11th, our system is not set up to help students cope. Schools universally require physical education classes, while none from elementary school through to high school and medical school require or even offer emotional education classes that teach mindfulness or cognitive behavioral therapy techniques. The cycle continues indefinitely until a midlife crisis, corporate burnout, or some other post-college catastrophe that forces someone to take a step back and reconsider the world and their place in it. Many people go their entire lives without breaking these cycles of anxiety and worry. Finally, college admissions burnout raises the risk for future midlife crises and failed relationships. Living and traveling abroad introduces me to hundreds of people who chose to exit this system to cope with the crushing pressures of 21st century living. I meet the investment bankers, the management consultants, marketing directors, doctors, and lawyers who are in their 30s and 40s wandering the planet looking for their life's purpose. And these people presumably had many of the same dreams when they were teenagers, the exact same as the clients that I work with and students who post on Reddit applying to college, only for those dreams in their early 20s to be brushed aside. Or perhaps they realized their childhood dreams resemble nightmares in adulthood. The harsh reality for many students is that gaining admission to your dream school is just the start of your problems. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. You can find my email in the information section of this video, so feel free to reach out if you're interested in working together.